How to sell projects in consulting. Hi, my name is Johannes Niari. I'm a project manager in strategy consulting, and on this channel I want to help you to learn the necessary skills that you need for a successful consulting career. And today I want to talk about an important topic if you are a project manager in consulting or if you have your own consulting firm. I want to talk about how to sell projects in consulting. So if you are looking for a video that will help you to understand how you can make sales in consulting, then this is the right video for you. A couple of weeks ago, I made a video about how I became a project manager and talked a little bit about what you can do to become a project manager in consulting as well. And I talked about 3 important skills that you need as a project manager. The first one is that you manage projects, then that you develop your leadership skills, and third, that you also become familiar with the sales process in consulting. Because once you become a project manager in consulting, then you become also a more senior person, and this leads you to the track to become partner. So selling projects, at least upselling your projects, becomes a very important part of your project manager job if you want to become partner as well sometime. So what I want to do today is to talk a little bit about my experience, how sales works in consulting, and hopefully this brings value to you. But before we start, I want to share a story how I learned the sales process in consulting. When I still studied, I joined a student consulting club. And in Germany, and in Europe in general, this is a kind of, a big thing where you have student clubs, where you have ambitious students and they form consultancies and they teach each other consulting skills, but also they conduct real projects. So they acquire real clients. Of course, these are very simple projects like conducting market studies or research or stuff like that. But nevertheless, these are real projects. And I joined such a club and I became responsible for the sales. So I was head of the sales department there. And this was the first, experience that I made with sales. And back then, I was still studying. I also started reading about sales. And the interesting thing was that I read all of these, sales books back then. And I heard about, cold calling and emotional selling and all of these fancy sales concepts. But to be quite honest with you, my sales approach back then was only, mediocre successful. Okay, I sold some projects, but it was not outstanding. And I didn't really, have the feeling that I knew how to sell consulting projects. Well, jumping a few years forwards, now when I joined strategy consulting, I was still interested in the entire selling process of selling consulting projects. And I talked to one of the very senior partners from our firm, and I had a lot of conversations with partners about how they sell projects. And what the senior partner told me, who was by the way one of the best-selling partners in the firm, he talked to me and he said, Johannes, consulting is a relationship business. And in order to sell projects, you have to build strong relationships. And he guided me through a sales approach that I want to introduce to you today and that I want to talk about today. But the important thing before that is to understand that consulting is a relationship-based business. So many of these concepts that you hear about from famous salespeople, they don't really work, because the thing is that these are really high tickets that you sell. So if you sell consulting projects, then the value of such a project can be between 100,000 to a couple of millions. So these are large numbers that we are talking about. And also management consulting is a very personal job. So this means that the people want to trust you as a person, and they just buy from you if they trust you and if they know you and if they think that you can do a great job. And that's why it is so important to build these relationships, but be aware that building these relationships takes a lot of time. So it's not that you can just pick up the phone and then start cold calling and then you can sell consulting projects. It rather takes a long time, and that's also one of the reasons why a consulting career can be so long, why it takes so long sometimes to become partner, and that's the reason for that. So what I want to do is to show you a sales process that I learned from the partner and that I had the discussions with. But also, if you read the book $1 Million Consulting, for which I made a review, if you want to see that, then check the video above. And in this book, also Alan Weiss talks about a very similar concept. He calls it sales sequence. And I adjusted the sequence, based on my own experiences and based on, discussions that I had with the senior partner. And this is what I want to introduce and talk about today. So if we talk about sales in consulting, then we actually talk about a process that is a sequence, okay? And it's a interdependent relationship. And there are 5 steps. So the first step is that it always starts with an existing relationship. Then you identify problems, then you offer solutions, then you conduct a project, then you create the results. And this again leads to a stronger relationship that, enforces the cycle again. And this is very important that you understand that it starts with a relationship and then it ends again with a stronger relationship. And this is the beginning of a new sales cycle. So how does it work? So let's take, let's make a scenario. Let's say that you are a young project manager, you get staffed on a project, and then you want to sell projects yourself and over time build your network. So how does it work? If we take a look at the framework, it starts first with the relationship. So typically, there's some kind of relationship. If you're new on a project or if you're a junior, then this relationship comes between probably the client, probably someone in top management, let's say maybe the CEO, and then a partner from your firm. And this is where it typically starts. So the firm and the client, they have a relationship, and you personally still don't have a relationship, but this will come as we see in the next steps. So you have a relationship between you and between your firm and the client, and this is where you start. Then probably, you identified some problems, or your firm identified some problems, and, or the client came up with a problem and approached the consultancy and asked if they could do a project. Then, then the pitch round starts, and all the consultancies, if you have an RFP, for example, hand in their proposal. Or, maybe you don't have an RFP, then you just hand in your proposal. So you offer your solution. Then in the best case, you conduct a project, and this is where you come in. So probably in the entire process, you don't play a big role at the beginning because this is mainly done by the partners. Well, maybe you are a part of, the pitch process, and that might be the case. But step 1 and 2, in the most cases at the beginning, is done by the existing partners. So you come in if you conduct the actual project. And this is what is so important to understand. So this is where you come in, and this is your job at the beginning, that you as a project manager, or also you senior consultant or consultant, that you are part of this project. And here it's so important that you do just the best work possible, because you want to get to the next stage, the step number 5, where you create results. And this should be your main focus. The thing is that through step 4 and 5, these phases are probably, or in most cases, very intense, because your, a typical strategy consulting project is about 12 weeks long, and this is usually a very, very intense time, and you work really, really closely together with the client. So with the project manager from the client, with the top management, with other people in the organization. And if you really, really create results, and if you really, really bring a solution to the business problem, then this creates a stronger relationship. And this leads again to step number 1, that you have now a stronger relationship. And for you, this is the chance on a project to create a new relationship. So let's say that maybe as a project manager, you come to a client, you haven't seen them before, but then on the project, you together with the project manager from the other company or with the top management, you create outstanding results, and they really appreciate your work. They like you as a person, and they really see that you are someone who solves problems. And this, of course, leads to a strong relationship again. And that's where you can start the entire cycle again. So once you have this trust, you can start again for identifying other problems for them, for offering solutions, and then conducting new projects. And this is a cycle that repeats itself over and over again. And that's also the reason why in most cases it's very, very hard to get into a firm. So as a consultancy, it's very difficult to acquire new clients. But once you have an engagement, it's much easier to do the upsell and to even provide more value for the client, because then you have just these relationships that you can build over time. So this is very important to understand. And of course, you can repeat the cycle. So you either you have basically 3 options if you want to do or acquire more projects. First option is that you sell more projects, or provide more solutions for your existing client. So this means, let's say your CEO is the client, then maybe the CEO has other problems that you can solve. This would be option number one. Second option would be that you build strong relationships with someone who is working on this project as well, but who is not your main client. So let's say, for example, you have a strong relationship with the CEO, then you have this project, and this also helps you to build a relation to the CFO maybe, because the CFO was also involved in the project and is really convinced from your work. And this leads to an opportunity where you can say, okay, maybe the CFO also has problems that you can solve, and then you can start that. Or if there are no problems that you can solve inside, you can always ask for referrals. So maybe the CFO or the CEO, maybe they know other CFOs or CEOs that can make a referral and recommend it to other CEOs and CFOs. And these are basically the three options that you have. But the important thing to understand is that if you want to sell projects in consulting, if you want to provide value to your client in consulting, it typically does not work if you do cold calling and stuff like that. Yes, of course, you have to do some marketing. You have to do all the branding work. This is very important in order, to get your name out there. But the actual selling process and the actual relationship building process starts if you have if you do projects. So what are now my tips for you? I still assume that you are a project manager in consulting, or maybe you are a consultant. So the main focus at the beginning should really be on this step number 4, that you create value on the project. So really focus on the project delivery at the beginning. Don't be the one going out there, networking all the time, especially if you're a junior person. The most important part at the beginning is that you deliver great work so that you make your project a success. Once you have more experience with that, then you can start to also build relationships during that process. So what I like to do is to go for lunch every time possible, in order to build connections, deep connections, not only with the client, with the main client, but also with other people from the organization, in order, to get to know the organization a bit better and meet new people and build relationships. Then it's very important to maintain these relationships, because very often you have a situation where you do one project, then maybe you don't get the extension, but maybe you want to do projects in 2 or 3 years again. And then it's really important to invest the time to maintain the relationship, to do catch-up meetings, to do catch-up calls, and to really try to keep this relationship ongoing. And you have to be aware that this entire process takes a lot of time. So typically these networks are built over years. Okay, so this is not something that happens, from one year to another. This takes time. This takes constant effort, constant investments into your network, and this is really important to understand. Again, of course, you can accelerate this entire process of building a network, of building relationships, by doing active marketing, for example, also by using social media for building relationships. This is also possible, but be aware that the main part of relationship and sales is going on within the projects, because there you can build the best relations with your client. So this is my take on how to sell projects in consulting. If you want to learn the essential consulting skills, then please check out my free masterclass in the link below. Also, if you like the channel, then please leave a thumb up and subscribe to the channel, that you don't miss any new video. And with that being said, I wish you a very successful day. Hope this brought value to you. See you soon. Goodbye. Johannes.